All right, I think we're at quorum. I know Dan had another commitment today, so call to order at 7:01. There's Tiana. Let me share my screen at the agenda. Getting started, I know, is there anyone for public participation? I see Judy.
Yes, please.
Hi, go ahead.
Hey, I also work for the Conservation Commission, and I just wanted to let you know that we are undertaking the Open Space and Recreation Plan update. They've just chosen a consultant, Horsley Witten Group, to help guide them through the certification process. So I think it'll be exciting. We're going to try a different, what I hope would be a different approach this time. When I went back over the previous open space plans, the first one was in 1986, established by the Conservation Commission. There was always a focus on, we need open space, we need to protect the open space. One of the recurring themes was we need to protect the town forest. That was in the 1986 open space plan, and it is in the most recent one that we're going to work on. So this time, we're going to get it done one way or another. We're going to get that land protected, because right now it's entirely tax title. So even though it's called Town Forest Park, it really isn't a town forest. So that will be hopefully one of the first things that gets done. But I think what's kind of been lost in previous processes, when I was part of one of the updates, and when I went back to some of the older information, was there was an overwhelming support for more open space. We need open space, we need to protect it. But there never seemed to be a drilling down to why do we need to protect it? You know, a good explanation of flood storage, why we need wildlife habitat, just all the things other than aesthetics that are important about open space. And I think coming off the pandemic, when people had to stay more local and found different areas, trail areas, different places of town that they may not have known about, I think kind of capitalizing on that. So what I had proposed to the commission is separating the town by the 7 voting districts and highlighting a certain, whether it's recreation or an open space area, a certain thing that's special to that one area of town, and maybe mapping it. So if it were, you know, the new tennis court, pickleball court, or the town forest, which is also a state designated area of critical environmental concern, which was really a big designation because it's such a unique area geographically. It's a overwintering spot for migratory birds. It has an incredible amount of wildlife, probably a vernal pool. There's a wetland in there. It's a treasure trove. Reedy Meadow is another area that could be, that's a national natural landmark. It's designated an important birding area by Mass Audubon. So I think there are a lot of areas that could be highlighted, and it just gives a different appeal to Wakefield. It can be used as a marketing tool. You know, we have these special things that other towns don't have. Because right now, when people think of Wakefield, they think of the lake. But it's so much more than just the lake. And there are so many unique things that I think we could capture in this kind of plan. And with that, heightening the awareness of why these open spaces are so critical at this point. And even for health benefits, Canada is now issuing prescriptions for park passes to help boost mental health, physical health. And they're really pushing the need to get outdoors. And the practice, even though I don't understand this at all, how this became a thing, but forest bathing has become a huge industry. I mean, take a walk outside, that's what it is, but it's turned into a, a capitalist entity. But either way, it gets people outside. So I think better trying to define why we're trying to protect things, and then trying to grab the interest of a broader audience, because the larger community buy-in is what is going to make the plan successful in the long run. People will get excited about it at first, but then once the plan is written, then what happens from there? So I went to the planning board the other night and gave them the same pitch, and they were interested, and they'll volunteer. And I know there's a collaboration already with conservation and planning, which is great. So I think that will aid. And they have decided to have quarterly joint meetings. So I think that will help down the road in reinforcing, one of those meetings will be about what are the goals on open space, let's look at this, to keep the plan in the forefront. So I think now is the time to, strike while the iron's hot, while open space is in the front of people's minds. And especially with a lot of talk about development, I think that can be part of the discussion. I'm hoping. I'm always optimistic when it comes to open space.
Can I ask you a couple questions? So first of all, this is very exciting, and this is an area where this committee has been talking about. I know that you talked at some length with Mary Hajar, who was a recent, she's no longer on the committee, but I think she's definitely following along too. And I know Sean has been talking about this some too. And I think it's definitely an area that we sort of as a committee think that we would love to. I mean, I guess I can't speak. I speak on behalf of myself that this is an area I think that there's a lot of overlap and a lot of potential.
Yes.
What's the alignment between the process that you're doing and the master plan? Because I know that there's a master plan sort of underway too, and there was the most recent topics and questions were on open space and use of space.
Right. There will, I think, be a component in that, but the open space plan is always a separate plan under it's in the Conservation Commission's mandate, open space, so it's always been a separate document. And I think because it's wrapped up with recreation as well, it's a much broader, it's a pretty in-depth document. And hopefully it will be, when I looked at the 1986 open space plan, it seemed to be more relevant today than more of the recent ones. It was more in tune with why we need to protect open space. And I think at the time, it was similar to now. It was an explosion of single family subdivisions. And that was at the same time that they did the review of the zoning processes. And some of the things that were put in were directly aimed at tempering single family development. And then it had the unintended consequence of not being like the stream setback bylaw, that is an example. It was put in as part of a discussion about slowing down development near wetland areas, because wetland regulations were fairly early at that point. The Conservation Commission in Wakefield was only established in 1982. It was an advisory board before that. So it was seen that wetlands could be the next thing that will be targeted for development. So this was it seemed to be put in as kind of a stopgap measure, but it wasn't. It was pretty poorly worded, and it defers one board to another. So what ended up happening was it was a layer of red tape. It wasn't an added protection. It was it was an obstacle. And that isn't the way for long-term planning design.
Right.
This should be responsible. This should be solid. If you have a case, you should be able to make it. There should be a solid case for open space, why it should be protected. It shouldn't have to be bound up in something like that. That's why I was glad the repeal came along, because to get bound up in red tape, the people that are affected are the single family homeowners. It's not the big developments that were affected by that. And the fact that it lay dormant for 31 years before it was enforced, so there really wasn't a value to it. But that concerns me with the talk about overdevelopment now, that there'll be a rush to try to get some kind of stopgap measures. So I'm hoping the open space plan, if we rethink the way we do it, it will give a broader reasoning for the value and the need for open space, because we're not going to get it back. That's the problem. So I think the broader appeal that we can have, the more broad appeal, the better it will be. I mean, people, you hear the term flood storage, and if you don't live near a wetland or if you don't experience flooding, you may not think it affects you, but it does affect everyone. Street trees, if you don't have trees that are shading the runoff, then that's going to affect the wetland. So it has an effect. It's a circular effect. You know, it's going to affect you one way or another, whether you're directly impacted or not. And that's kind of the message that we have to try to somehow fine tune to get out to the broader audience. So I'm hoping by segmenting it into different sections and giving more reasoned arguments for the values of open space, that it'll open up, open some minds to it. Because not everyone is a big, some people think we have plenty of open space. And that could be fine, but what are the functions and values of the open space is what it comes back to. Are they functioning the way they could be? Should there be more value on some areas than others? So we've got a mountain to climb.
Yeah, of course. Sean?
I'm just really excited to hear all this, because it's part of what we've been talking about in trying to get a land use subcommittee relaunched, and I'd be very interested in connecting with you further and supporting this. Some of the things that we discussed, we kind of did lose a little momentum a few months ago, but we've been trying to pick that back up, and with new committee members, I'm hoping we'll have more subcommittee members too. But some of the things we've discussed were also around kind of just the public visibility or lack thereof of some of our open space. I don't think Wakefield has less open space than other towns. Some of it's more at risk, as you mentioned. But I don't think we do a great job of even just highlighting like where a wetland is from, where across, where there might be a place to view it from a street or other public access area, things like that. And to raise the awareness alongside the appreciation of these ecosystem services that open space provides, and other things that, we've wanted to connect and better understand. And it's also come up in lots of ways in some of our other initiatives that we've been discussing here. So I'll certainly follow up individually, and if we can be of further support, please let us know, including I know Juliet forwarded on some information about a meeting you had all had in March. I don't know when the next meetings are, and
we don't have it scheduled yet. We're waiting for the final proposal from the consultant, but that will be coming soon.
Is there a way that public people can be involved or share thoughts? Is that part of the process that the consultant has outlined?
Yes, it's required to have at least 2 public hearings. There'll be a survey as well. There'll be most likely subcommittees. So there are a lot of opportunities to get involved, which is great.
Great. The other thing I would say, this is also an area where I've been just, more and more sort of fired up about. The other thing, in addition to what you said, Sean, around the sort of public awareness, I think it's a little bit unclear to me, like how we maintain like our trails or our sort of public access in our green spaces, in our sort of public lands. And so I just wonder if that's sort of part of the question too. And I know Reedy Meadow, I'm definitely one who's shared openly that I'm known to go on lunchtime walks, and I'm often in either Linfield or Reading, because they have really incredible trails that are very well marked and very well maintained. And so
Wakefield has very good trails as well.
We do have some amazing trails. When I've tried to figure out who owns it, it's a little bit hard to know who owns it.
Right.
And so who owns that job? And it's worth being clear, I think.
Right. Well, the town, I don't think will ever maintain the trails. Virtually every town has volunteer trail wardens. I know Melrose has a group of them. Andover has a phenomenal open space circuit and a tremendous number of volunteers. We've tried in the past through the commission. Sometimes it's difficult to get volunteers. We had reached out to the neighborhood along Holland Road because there's a big trail system that goes up through JJ Round, up to the highest point in Wakefield. So I know they self-maintain the trails as well, but that's something we're looking at, is getting a better mapping system. I know some of the trails are on the MAPC website. Some of them aren't accurate. The Crystal Lake Trail being one of them. But there are a bunch of trail sites that already have it. But we've talked about putting in some type of, like Melrose has a pocket map of the trails, and I think that would be helpful. And like Reedy Meadow, that trail, the Boy Scouts.
I love the Reedy Meadow Trail.
Yeah.
When it's passable, it's just sometimes that it is a wetland, right? It's often
Right.
Not passable.
Right. That's nature's way of keeping you home.
Right.
That's why I look at it.
That's why. Has anybody else gone to the Northeast Metrotech, the hike, to see where there's a huge
Imminent destruction.
Yeah, basically that people assume that the land that a lot of people don't know that the land that they're going to be doing it on is what people assume is Breakheart Reservation, whereas years ago that school got some of the land from Breakheart, and it's mind-bogglingly, it's ridiculously important land that we really need to do something about. I've taken wetlands courses and I just, yeah.
Carol, you need to introduce yourself before you speak.
Sorry,
Just
Carol
remember.
Zubick from Wakefield, 294 Main Street. Sorry, it's just I feel bad that I was one of many that wasn't really paying attention. We're so focused on the fact there's going to be a silver lead. I'm like, my father is a civil engineer, so even from a civil engineering standpoint, what a huge waste of money, all the construction they have to do and all the destroying they're going to be doing. They can take that extra money by just shifting it to it slightly, and they can get gold standard building.
I don't understand the need for that second access road. I think that's preposterous. But one of the interesting things when there's a link on the Conservation Commission webpage that has a webinar that's excellent, some night sky information, all based around the open space plan. And I sent the link to Julie. I can send it around if she can pass her. It's right on the webpage. But when I was looking into the documentation for the certification of the area of critical environmental concern, one of the comments was from MDC about how they were trying to heighten the awareness of the importance of protecting open space, especially Breakheart, since it's 200 feet from this ACEC. And now here we are a couple of decades later and they raised their credit. So I'm wondering where their messaging went, how that changed. It seems funny that they were the proponents for it and then they turn around and pillage it. But there's also, at the end of Wiley Street was a state-owned parcel that they were going to put trails in when they, it was proposed for development and then there was a taking done. It was spearheaded by Senator Desai, former senator. It's now owned by PCR, but they talked about trails, so that might be an area to kind of revive that talk because it is a beautiful spot. It goes right up to the high school. So I think there are a lot of areas with untapped potential. And one of the things when I proposed segmenting into the 7 voting districts was there are so many tax title parcels. So I thought if there were a parcel in each of these areas, and they could be either a pocket park, it could be an area of, they have something called the demonstration garden of all native plantings, maybe a rain garden. We've talked about signage at the trails, at town forest, you know, who lives here, here are some of the traction AC, different things like that, that to just try to get an awareness and just an interest for people to get out into these spaces. One of the associate members on the commission also took a bunch of photographs around town that are on the website. And one of them is a partridge at Reedy Meadow,
Wow.
which is pretty amazing. So there's a lot of wildlife out there that you may not know about. I mean, there are 2 endangered birds, an endangered salamander at Reedy Meadow. There's the area where the vote is talking about is a protected habitat as well. It's on the Division of Conservation Services biomap as a critical landscape. So that's another consideration.
The other huge thing they mentioned was it's rare that they have don't have invasive species, and that's very rare land.
Right. Yeah, and Reedy Meadow is the same. It's a critical core habitat, a wetland habitat, because it is untouched. So, I mean, I like bike trails. I like the idea of it. Cutting through Reedy Meadow, I'm a harsh opponent of. It will change the whole makeup of that wetland. And you can't undo that. You can't get the birds to come. I mean, some birds may stay, but some of the birds will be gone, and that'll be it. So I think the raised boardwalk is a nice idea. And most of it won't be in Wakefield, so we won't have a say. But I think it would do a lot of damage to that pristine area. You know, I don't think we have to be in the middle of nature to appreciate nature. That's just my feeling.
Jen, did you want to say something? Jen Clay?
Well, it's a little irrelevant now, but I just wanted to say I'm part of the scouting group, and they are always looking for projects and would love to do trail cleanups and things like that. So if you have a need, let us know.
Well, that'd be great.
Any other comments either from the committee members or for other members of the public? Thank you so much, Judy. I didn't know
Thank
this was
you.
coming, and it was really fantastic. And I think it really, as if you can't tell, I think several of us are just really interested and happy to help and really
No, that was great.
appreciate what you're doing.
And if you have any questions, reach out to us. That'd be great.
Great.
Anything, any ideas, anything.
And also when I think you'll definitely hear from many of us. And also when the town forest issue comes up, I think that's another area. We sort of had a little bit of a map we planned out, and we've also, I know that it would have to be a bylaw change at town meeting, and that's something that this committee has done in the past for some other issues that we feel strongly about. And so I think it's definitely worth sort of keeping that conversation open.
Well, it's something that we've already spoken to town council about, and what they can do is transfer it to the care and custody of the commission. So then it wouldn't have to go through the state and get the actual possession of the commission. So it would give it the layer of protection, but it would just go through town council. So it would make it much easier. So between that parcel, and there are a number of other parcels that the former town planner, Paul Revis, had advocated for the Emerald Necklace. So with all these parcels together out through Holland Road to JJ Round, it would be about 100 acres that we could have under the control of the Conservation Commission, which would be great. Yeah, so it's something to look forward to, I think.
Great.
But that's why I think the messaging is going to be important, because I'm just afraid of the knee-jerk reaction to overdevelopment, that we can get mired down in something similar to like the stream setback bylaw that had the unintended consequence of being red tape only. So if you have any ideas, any thoughts, love to have them. And please take a look at the information on our website. It's really, I think it's really interesting. The webinar especially.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. I don't know. I apologize in advance. My computer is acting up, as it often does. I don't hear myself echo again, but if you have problems, just let me know. And if I shut off, I made some co-hosts so that you all can continue and I'll rejoin. Item 3, approval of the minutes from last meeting that Robin sent out a couple days ago. Is there any feedback to Robin, or did you get any comments, Robin?
I did. I got comments from Melissa and Tatiana, not of substantial nature, just a couple typos. So I have a motion to approve with their edits, such as adding the word non-recyclable in front of black plastic as part of the recycling event, adding the word the, and Tatiana's note. Oh, there's a extra was in reference to Sophie's award. So we need a second. If that's
Second.
okay. So a couple people, or at least one person mentioned they can't vote because they weren't there. That actually, just a reminder, is not the requirement. You being present makes you eligible to vote for a meeting, even if you didn't attend. And so in order for it to be approved, we need a quorum of 6 votes. So just for the new folks and folks who may have been missing last week. So Myra, if you want to.
All right. I don't think I can second, but I can do roll call.
We did get a second. I heard someone, didn't I? Did someone second the motion?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Tom.
Tom?
Since we need a quorum, aye.
Melissa?
Yes.
Chris, do you want to do your first vote?
Sounds good. I'm a yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Tiana, you want to do your first vote?
Yes.
And Julie?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes.
You
And
didn't ask
Robin?
me. Yeah.
And
Yes,
Robin?
we're good.
When I do,
Motion
I try to
passed.
share my screen. All right, so we have some new people with us. It's very exciting. So welcome to Chris and Tiana. First of all, Chris, do you like Chris or Christopher?
Chris is good. Thank
All
you.
right. So I thought we could do a little bit of introduction of each of us who are on the commission and and as well as others who join us frequently, including you, Jen, if you'd like to chime in. As a way to welcome our new members and talk a little bit about what it is that you have been working on in the committee, or what you're sort of interested in, sort of why we're all here. So it's sort of a quick introduction, and including you as well, Chris and Tiana, who are our new elected and newly sworn in members. So I'll start since
Can I ask I should have asked this before the vote. Did the new members get sworn in by the clerk? Okay, because you couldn't have voted. I forgot to ask. And I don't get told if you didn't, so.
And Robin, I realized actually I did not get re-sworn in, which I probably was supposed to.
Yes,
So
you
you
need
might
to
wanna
sign,
take me off the
you need to
list.
sign the book, and you need to have taken your ethics test again.
Oh, okay. Well, I have some homework. I didn't do that, so I don't know if I can vote.
We passed without you, I think.
Okay. So welcome also. I am Myra Sessions. I have been the chair of the ESC this past year. I tell people, and I feel pretty confident, especially now with the new people joining, that I'm the least qualified person to be on this call and in this room. I work in healthcare professionally. I'm a healthcare consultant. But I really came to ESC and I sort of reapplied because I just feel it has been a very empowering experience. I feel like we've built, this committee now is moving into our 4th year. So we've had 3 years. And we've really we've learned a lot. We've gone through a lot of processes. It's been really pretty remarkable to me that when people are on this committee and people in the public ask for changes, that changes really happen. And I think we've had a sort of great partnership with DPW. We've had a great partnership with the town. We're sort of really trying to build some momentum around some really great initiatives around composting, around open spaces, among waste reduction, really sort of things, recycling events, sort of boosting some awareness of those. And so it's been really exciting for me, and just sort of the sort of tentacles of this committee, I think, are far reaching. And so that's been really exciting for me. Robin, as our other elder stateswoman, would you like to go next?
I missed part of that, but so I'm Robin. I've been our secretary for the last 3 years. My day job is I'm an architect in the K-12 public sector. So my interests include a lot of the school building projects, but other community projects in construction, as well as I have a love of natural plants and native plants, and I, through gardening, try to demonstrate how people's front yards can be anything other than grass and get the compliments, which I enjoy to share with folks. So welcome.
Great.
Oh, and I'm a lead AP and all that training and stuff like that.
Julie, I don't know if you are in a place you can talk, but I'm as your other elder stateswoman.
Can you hear me?
Committee. Yes, of course.
And I apologize for being in the car. My daughter just finished her freshman year at UMass Amherst, and she was not really packed up when we got there. We were running a little late. But welcome to all the new members. I'm so excited to have you. This is, I guess I can say it's my favorite committee. I'm a town councilor here. I'm in my 4th year.
You're breaking up, Julie.
Okay.
All right, we may come back to you. But Melissa.
Hey everybody, I'm Melissa Usden, and I have been on the committee for 1 year. And before joining the committee, I worked closely with the committee to pass the styrofoam ban at town meeting. And for the last year, I've been focusing on waste reduction efforts. So I've been working with the economic director for the town on the styrofoam bylaw and the plastic reduction bylaw to get businesses to adopt to those new practices, and to stop buying the materials that are prohibited in the bylaws. And I've also been working on instituting a recycling program at the Galvin Middle School, and I'm hoping to start composting programs at the elementary schools. And I also work in renewable energy for my day job.
Melissa, I was so excited. I was driving on behind the Americal the other day, and there was the giant compost Black Earth bin, I think from the Interfaith Food Pantry, was like out for a pickup, and it was very exciting.
Nice. I like seeing the Black Earth bins behind farmland too.
Yes. And I'm out of turn, but I can report I was at the Woodville the other day, and I saw them wheeling in the materials for the lunch, and they are off styrofoam trays at the Woodville.
Awesome.
So they're onto cardboard, which is a huge, I think, thing, and they're also interested in recycling too because of that, I think. So I think
they don't have recycling there?
They don't, because some of their stuff went to the Galvin when you started. So some of their materials was shifted over there, and so now they want it back.
Interesting.
Tell us now.
Okay.
So we should follow up on that. I think there's some potential.
Okay.
Sean.
Hi, welcome Chris and Tiana. I'm Sean Cash. I joined the committee a year ago. Feels like a week ago. In my day job, I'm an economist and a professor at the Friedman School of Nutrition Science and Policy at Tufts University. And a big part of what I do there is on sustainable food systems, teach courses on environmental economics, also work on consumer behavior around food and nutrition. here on this committee, interested in all aspects of sustainability in the town, and have been involved in some of the land use subcommittee issues, as well as interested in things around food and sustainability and what we can do here in Wakefield.
Great. Tom.
Geez, make me feel like the dumb person in the room. But Tom Betcher, I am our gas and light liaison. I am a Wakefield Gas and Light Commissioner. So you're stuck with me another year. We just did a board reshuffle again last night. And congratulations to Jen Clay, who is our new chair, which is why you are stuck with me for another year. But I'm happy to be here. This will be my third year as liaison. Just generally interested in, obviously from the energy side, energy efficiency, decarbonization, but just all things sustainable, big champion of composting, recycling, all of the things that this committee and body can do. So I'm excited to continue that work. Current things that I'm working on that I would like that this committee to move forward is either bylaw stretch code for solar ready and EV ready, or some two rocks I'd like to move forward. This year we have been working on that. Was a big proponent of the energy stretch code that we got passed that needed to be, as some part of the green communities that hopefully will become a part of this summer. So welcome, Chris and Tiana to the committee.
Nick, and then we'll get to our new members. Nick, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I can introduce myself. So my name's Nick Palari. I'm a current senior at Wakefield Memorial High School, and I serve as a high school student liaison on this committee. I take pride in the sustainability of mainly like schools and open public areas in the community. And I think the biggest success that I've had is helping trying to organize the warrior cleanups on this, and the youth council. I'm also part of that too. So we did one on the youth council for Veterans Day, and we had a huge turnout for youth in the community. It was like 200 kids or something like that. So it was pretty impressive. And I take pride in having a nice, clean school, living in a nice, clean town. And I'm a big champion on recycling and composting, and I'm excited to see what this committee can do in the future.
That's great. Thank you. Tiana.
Hi, I'm Tiana. I've been I'm new to the committee. I've been in Wakefield just about 3 years now, and I have an almost 4-year-old. We were at the warrior cleanup this past weekend with my almost 4-year-old. He and I enjoy, we usually just take up the trash on our own block of West Water Street, but it was fun to pick up trash in a new location. In my day job, I'm a software product manager at Indigo Ag. So we're trying to get farmers to make sustainable practices to their farming operation and earn carbon credits by doing that. So that is the space that I'm in during the day. And I'm a big proponent of composting and recycling and solar. We did solar panels on our roof 2 years ago and love them. So I'm excited to help move all these things forward in town and get involved. So, thanks for having me.
And Chris, welcome.
Thank you. Good to meet you, everybody. Chris Lewis. I live on Crystal Street in kind of Greenwood area, Wakefield. We moved here in 2020 in the fall, so I've really only lived here kind of during the pandemic. But I did most of my growing up in Reading, so I know the area a little bit, but still getting to know the town. And professionally, I work for a small firm that helps educational and institutional clients with sustainability planning, engineering, and project implementation. So my background's in mechanical engineering and building energy efficiency work. Those are kind of my core interest areas. Excited to learn more about the building related projects that are going to be coming up, and yeah, and just help out wherever I can with anything related to energy efficiency, decarbonization, and anything related to that. So excited.
Great, thank you. So when we meet next week or next month, excuse me, I think we'll talk a little bit more about subcommittees and what people might be interested in. I think tonight we're going to talk about the officers of the committee, but I wanted to offer you, Jen, whether you would like to go first on green communities. Since you now are chair, I know you got a lot going on, so we could change our agenda if you'd like to do that.
Actually, that would be wonderful if you're willing.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you.
I think you have to introduce yourself. Even though Jen is an ESC alum, I think you have to introduce yourself with your, or not, I don't know.
Yes, that's fine.
I'm not gonna pretend.
Jennifer Kelly at 25 Sylvan Avenue. I've been, have some history at this point. I started out with the Wakefield Climate Action Project like so many years ago, and that merged into Sustainable Wakefield. So I've pretty much been involved in sustainability in some way, shape, or form throughout my entire time living here. I'm now on the Wakefield Municipal Gas and Light Department Board as an elected official in town. And I'm volunteering to help out as basically a member of the public on helping the town develop its green communities energy reduction plan. And I'm an energy consultant by trade. I do a lot of long-term energy planning in conjunction with communities and at the state level. So I just noticed that I can't share my screen. So
I can make you a co-host.
Be able to give me that ability. And my understanding is that usually Julie gives the intro here, but I think she's in the car, so I will do my best in her stead.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you do it, Jen. You do it.
All right, I will do my best. So the Green Communities Program is a program that's been in effect since 2008. A lot of towns and cities in Massachusetts have essentially been designated into the plan. It's a grant. It's a endeavor that provides grants to towns and cities across Massachusetts to reduce their energy use. And as Julie mentioned, there's 5 criteria that you need to accomplish in order to be eligible for these grants. Once you're designated into the program, you get an initial designation grant for the first year, and then you can apply for competitive grants up to $200,000 in the remaining years through your lifetime of being in the program. Many towns have been in now for 10 years or more. We are just applying now. We're a little late to the game, but we're getting in at a good time. We have a lot of building updates coming up, and we have some major construction projects that we're seeking to influence. So in a good way. So I think it's a good time for this plan. So what we're doing tonight is I just described briefly green communities, summarizing our activities to date. I presented previously on our essentially baseline energy use for the town. We're using fiscal year 2021 as our baseline, and so I'll explain what that means, but we're essentially now I'm back to share how we plan to meet, which is the main criteria for designation, the key goal of reducing our energy use in municipal buildings and vehicles by 20% over the course of the next 5 years. So that's fiscal year 2023 through fiscal year 2027. And so now basically I've done a number of presentations along with Julie and another technical assistant we are working with from MAPC in the last couple weeks for the school committee, the town council, and also for our board, the Wakefield Municipal Gas and Light Department board. And I'm here tonight to do the same presentation for you. And basically we're soliciting feedback and comments, and then looking to basically finalize the plan and then be designated hopefully in June. And we've been working on this for the last year or so. So as I explained, it's really just focused on municipal buildings and vehicles. Residential homes and commercial buildings are not included. And I believe, I don't know the current numbers, but there's something like 250 towns out of the 351 that are at least that many that have been designated, potentially more to date. So there's a lot of communities involved. The program benefits for us, it's estimated that our designation grant would be about $170,000 in the first year. I mentioned we would apply each year for additional grant funding. We're really seeking to reduce energy costs for the town and our residents moving forward. It also enables us to kind of reinvest in buildings, freeing up capital to do projects that might not otherwise get done. Definitely improves the utilization of buildings by making them more comfortable and livable and able to support activities in town, and improving, again, health, safety, and the environment. This is the key goal that we're working toward in the energy reduction plan. And the activities to date, in 2021, as Julie mentioned, someone mentioned, we adopted the Stretch Energy Code in town meeting. We developed an energy use baseline. Over the winter and spring, we adopted, actually 3 entities adopted efficient vehicle policies, which is required under the program. So the school adopted it, the town adopted it, and actually, in addition, the Wakefield Municipal Gas and Light Department adopted it, though not required, just to be all in alignment. We've spent the last number of months drafting the energy reduction plan, and now we're here for review and feedback. The other thing that happened that's worth noting is over the winter, we had an energy audit that included 17 major municipal buildings in town. So we had a company go through, talk with facilities managers, collect a lot of information. Part of setting up for this is actually getting all of our energy data in one place. So we now have all of our energy data tracked in Mass Energy, Massachusetts. Actually, it's called Mass Energy Insight, which is a tool that everyone can use. So we're all looking at the same thing, planning with the same data. It's really awesome. There are a lot of good views and a lot of helpful information to help kind of coordinate implementation of this effort across a number of different departments. And a lot of departments have been a lot of folks have been involved. We have a team that includes the DPW, schools, engineering, facilities management, Julie from as like an ESC town council representative, the town administrator, a WMGLD person, the general manager, myself, MAPC. So there's been a lot of folks involved, and we're still kind of branching out and involving more and more people as we go. So the audit that was conducted late last year basically came back with a significant number of measures that we could do across all these buildings, the estimated savings for each measure, and estimated cost for each measure. And Kara from MAPC graciously went through all of that very detailed data. And we basically worked together to come up with a strategy and approach for what we want to do in the next 5 years. This isn't limited to just these, certain buildings. We could certainly do more, but we tried to come up with kind of a core idea of getting to the 20%. So what our strategy was to really look at the larger buildings in town and the ones that are least efficient. We also wanted to look at the ones where there's most energy savings opportunities. And the last thing that we were striving to do was to really align with the capital improvement plan that the town already has in place. They have a plan for when they're going to go into certain buildings. And so wouldn't it be nice while they're in there already disrupting the building, if they could also be doing a little bit more, especially in the on energy related measures. And I'm seeing a hand up. Melissa.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why the Woodville is in 3 years and no other elementary school is being considered.
Sure. The quick answer to that is a number of the other elementary schools have had major equipment replaced. The Woodville is approaching 20 to 25 years after it's been built. And so what happens at that point is that major equipment starts to go. So they're in line for essentially a boiler replacement. In addition to that, we're looking at electrifying the building, putting in heat pumps. There's a water heater replacement. So there's a lot of equipment coming up for replacement over the next 5 years. And that is a very staggered over a couple of years because it's actually a $2 million project. It's quite significant in terms of its scale. I think it's the biggest project that we have here other than the high school.
So all the other elementary schools have already upgraded all their equipment?
Yes, so there's measures in every single, measures that we can do in every single one of the 17 buildings. But many of the elementary schools have already replaced their boiler, as an example, or done some of the measures that would get us more significant savings. So yes, we can still go back and do smaller things. And we can certainly do things that improve comfort, because we are getting reports from a number of people that certain schools or places they work are not very comfortable. But in terms of kind of a major comprehensive project that's going to get us significant energy savings, the Woodville School is the largest opportunity of all the elementary schools that we see in the data.
Got it. Thanks.
Yep. So yeah, what we see here now is basically a plan that focuses, the core is 5 buildings. The year 1 is some smaller projects, which is why they're all in 1 year. So Town Hall, the Civic Center, and the Public Safety Building. Then Woodville is a larger project, and it probably won't end up being staggered over 3 years, maybe 2 years at this point in time, which might leave room for other projects that are also a priority. And we've been hearing about a number of schools or buildings that could use additional work, and then ending with the Wakefield Memorial High School, which is our largest project.
And I know that like there's already a plan, for example, to put solar panels on top of the gas and light building. And I know that there's the new panels going in, I think next month, to use that $50,000. So is that, is that captured in the plan? And it's not here because it's not, I know it's sort of paid for, but is that sort of captured in the reduction plan?
So the Wakefield Municipal Light Department is not a municipal building. They're actually not considered to be a town. They're kind of a separate entity, so they don't count.
Okay.
Additionally, you can do renewable energy, but it doesn't necessarily reduce your energy use. So you actually have to include it back in.
Okay.
What you generate from renewable energy. So it's a good thing. There's nothing wrong. It's just that it's not kind of what they're looking to do really is address the energy use of buildings and really get the inefficiency out of what's really quite an old building stock, right? In many towns, these buildings have been around for a good long time. And there's a lot, there's a fair amount of opportunity here. So that's what they're targeting. So I wanted to let you know that I can't see everyone's hands in one screen. So I don't know how you want to get my attention throughout, but please feel free to get my attention.
Jen, I'll let you know. I can see everyone, so I'll let you know if somebody's there.
Thank you, because I have my screen up. So this is a quick view of the savings and how we plan to get to the goal. So the buildings are along the left-hand side. Then we see the projected MMBTU savings for each building, the MMBTU usage, and then we calculate the savings as a % of usage for each building. You can see the grand total gets us to 20% precisely. I'll let you know that this plan, there's no penalty for not achieving. This is really to show your plan for trying to achieve. That said, it needs to be credible, right? It needs to be a good idea, and it needs to be, a lot of people need to think it's a good idea. You need to get buy-in effectively from your town and from the grant, the entity that's giving you the grant. So in order to really achieve the 20%, so I guess to that effect, this could change over time, and there's not really a problem if it does. If we, for example, the public safety building, we're currently working, this is an estimate, we're working on, there's a renovation project that might include some of these measures. So we're working on deduping what was in the audits with what's in the upcoming renovation. And that number is likely to change based on some of that additional research. So some of this will change, and if that number goes down, we might need to add in another building in order to get to the 25% or 20%. And we might do that anyways, because there might be another high priority building that we want to put in here. One of the biggest findings out of this was that we can really reach 3/4 of our energy reduction goal simply by building a new highly efficient high school. So that is a huge opportunity. And I think I knew it was going to be big. I was not really appreciating just how large it is of an opportunity. So we're projecting, you know, a 60% savings opportunity in that one building alone, which is very significant, and it happens to be the largest building in our fleet. I'm seeing Robin, hand up.
So similar to the gas and light, does the VOTEC not count because it's not part of town of Wakefield, but it is public building?
Yes, that's correct. That's not in our building stock officially. In the first couple of years, you can see the savings percent of usage is somewhere in the 5 to 15% range. So these are small, a little bit smaller projects, though not insignificant. And then as you get to the later years, these are larger projects that will probably take a little more planning anyways, and preparation. That said, you know, we've already heard reports at Woodville that there's some, you know, equipment issues going on. So they certainly want to fix those issues before the equipment fails, right? You don't want that to happen. So that's a high priority. This is a very rough view of cost flow. And the reason I say rough is it's all estimates and it certainly will change. So the, as I mentioned, the auditor provided some estimated costs associated with the projects. The first year adds up to about $200,000. If you feed in our $170,000 Green Community Grant, that actually covers a lot of those costs, and there's not much that wouldn't be covered. The Woodville Elementary School is, as I mentioned, like a $2 million project. If we split it over, for example, 2 years, we might be able to get $400,000 for it or more, which would offset some of those costs. So that's really what we're looking to do in this strategy. And the Woodville Elementary School, the biggest component of that is the boiler replacement, which is actually the vast majority of those costs. So that would all be in 1 year.
Jen, has Green Communities given us any indication? You know, I know we're showing that the maximum award of $200K per year for like Woodville. What is our probability of being, you know, for a project like Woodville and separating it over the 3 years of being awarded that maximum 200K each in year over year?
So I'll take it in 2 parts. Generally speaking, what we're hearing from MAPC, and they have experience across a number of different towns on this, many different towns, is that, you know, we haven't received any money through this program yet, and other towns have been in it for 10 years and received millions of dollars. So we would be, you know, if we have a good plan, we would be more likely to receive some money because we haven't received anything yet. Yeah. Also, they really like to see comprehensive projects that really get at some of the harder to reach opportunities. If you come in and say, hey, we're just going to do a little bit of lighting in 17 buildings, that's not really as compelling of a story as saying we're going to go really deep in a building and be really comprehensive. So this plan is a really deep comprehensive plan, which is more attractive.
Melissa has a question.
Yep.
You mentioned boiler replacement. Was there a look into electrification instead of that boiler replacement?
Yeah, so that boiler replacement is in fact electrification. So the boiler needs to be replaced, and at the time of replacement, the recommendation is to replace with heat pumps and electrify the building.
Okay.
So sorry, that's an important clarification.
Okay.
So these are some slides that I presented a number of months ago that I've just updated. This shows the energy use by building. There's 10 buildings on this page and 7 on the next, and it starts with the biggest building. So this is showing our strategy of targeting some of the larger buildings and the ones with the highest absolute energy use. So you can see the high school, you know, just really stands out as not only a large building, but an efficient building. It's a combination of both. And you see a lot of our schools on this page too, which are not only our larger buildings, well, many of them are our larger buildings in town. these are the, using the same scales, the remaining buildings, and Town Hall is on this slide as well. That's one of the buildings. Our 7 schools represent 75% of our building energy use. So as I mentioned before, you really can't get to 20% energy reductions without addressing schools in some way, shape, or form. This is the energy efficiency by buildings. So it's energy use per square foot, or EUI. And what we see here is, again, targeting some of the less efficient buildings. I will say that the EUI captures energy use characteristics of the building as well, equipment, and how many hours the building is used. So what you see here is the public safety building has different use characteristics than other buildings. It's kind of open 24/7, has a lot of equipment in it for safety and communication and all kinds of other things. So that building is actually quite a high energy use compared to other buildings.
The Civic Center is a surprise being number 2.
Yeah, do we know what part of the Civic Center is contributing to its higher EUI? What characteristics or equipment?
That is a good question. I don't know, but I mean, that's a pretty, it's a pretty old building. So my guess is that what's contributing to it is that it's a really old building.
Yeah, I'm thinking leaky envelope.
I mean, it is also, you know, it is in operation quite a bit, you know, both for a long period of weekdays and weekends. So, you know, while not 24/7 like public safety, but I would say its hours are probably more than actually at school.
Yeah, that's one of the buildings where I believe we can see it on the following slides, insulation and weatherization was recommended. That said, these older buildings can be also very difficult and costly to weatherize. So I think it's a balance there. We have heard in our feedback that there's an interest in really addressing that building and doing a good job. So we're going to be following up with the auditor to see if there's additional opportunities that we didn't capture for some reason, to just make sure that we're being as comprehensive as possible. I'm seeing Chris.
Are the results of the audit, like a report from the process, is that something that's publicly available?
Yes. The only reason I pause is I don't think it's actually in a public place right now. So, but yes, when we file our grant application, it needs to be accompanied by all of the workbook and spreadsheets that came out of that audit. I don't think there's any reason why we couldn't share it with you today. So I can follow up with MAPC and see if it's a shareable. I mean, it's definitely public information. It's just a matter of getting it to you and posting it somewhere where you can view it. So I'll follow up on that and be in touch. So this just goes building by building. Town Hall, there's a project underway. I believe it's over the summer and into the early fall. They're looking at siding, flooring, ceilings, smoke detectors, electrical panel lighting, things like that. And the project, these are non-energy improvements, most of them, at about $165,000. So the energy improvements that came out of the audit would be additional interior and exterior lighting upgrades, low flow faucets, heat pump upgrades, and a heat pump water heater. So those are estimated to be about $16,000 with a 7% energy reduction. The cost, go ahead.
I would say, can you touch on something you had told me, which was, you know, kind of shocking to me, but, you know, our capital improvement plan really wasn't addressing any sort of energy efficiency improvements or even looking at that in the plan, and how this, you know, the green community is just kind of highlighting that.
Well, we have yes and no. We have equipment replacements. I'm not sure it was kind of married to the other capital improvements. It might have lived in a different place. It wasn't kind of looking at a whole building necessarily. So at the time that equipment needed to be replaced, it might have just been that one piece of equipment that was replaced. So we're kind of advocating for more of a whole building approach, and we're advocating, you know, if you're going to be in the building ripping up flooring, it's a good time to do other projects that are disruptive. So we're just looking to kind of make it more efficient for everyone, right, to go into a building and address both non-energy and energy improvements at the same time. That can't always happen, but to the extent it could be coordinated, that would be a good thing. But yes, I mean, a lot of the capital improvement plan that we did see didn't have a lot of energy related improvements in it. So this is augmenting that a bit, and everyone's pretty excited about that, you know, being able to bring more of that in and address it in a more proactive way.
I just want to like make a note on that, because I do think one of the things I've been thinking about for our committee is that we put a lot of work 3 years ago into the municipal vulnerability plan. And I think some of that framework around how decisions are made did sort of ask departments to really be thinking about energy efficiency and climate impact in some of these decisions. And so, you know, you saying that it sort of was off the radar screen a little bit is a little bit of a reminder to me that I think part of our committee was meant to follow up on that. And so it might be time to revisit some of that with town departments and as they think about these plans.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and a word about the energy improvement costs. These do assume some town staff doing some of the project's installation in order to save some money. So some of the costs may seem lower, but it's utilizing, you know, the most cost efficient resources where we can, so that it isn't a huge cost burden, and really only outsourcing what's necessary. So public safety building, I mentioned there's a pretty major renovation of half of the building going on. So we're really trying to dedupe what's being addressed by that major renovation. What came out of the audits, you know, is a little bit of everything, to be honest. That building does need some work. So boilers, chiller, lighting controls, weatherization, low flow fixtures, and vending machine controls. Cost of about $192,000 and energy reduction of 15%. So these numbers will change. We're just kind of checking what's in this building renovation. Either way, though, because this any project that goes on after our fiscal year 2021 can be included in our energy savings. So all of this work, even if it's in current and incorporated in the renovation plan, still counts towards our energy savings against our baseline year. So the Civic Center, the big project there is roofing. They're doing roofing and bathrooms. Estimated cost of about $50,000. So again, this is really using that opportunity when we're already in the building to add some more projects and some. Sorry, I have kids screaming because they're going to bed. Lighting upgrades, weatherization and insulation, low flow fixtures, and a new heat pump water heater. This is what we receive feedback on is that this is only a 4% energy reduction, and given the energy use of the building, couldn't we do better? So we're going to go back and see if that's a possibility. The other exciting thing that's going on, which isn't necessarily eligible for grant funding, is that they are looking at solar PV after we do this roof replacement. So that's pretty awesome. This is the elementary school, the Woodville Elementary School. So this really isn't, there's not a lot of non-energy improvements planned. Really, this was focused on energy improvements. And so it's really doing kind of a comprehensive build, you know, addressing energy kind of across the board with all the equipment inside, water heater, the boiler replacement, as I mentioned, with heat pump system and full electrification of the building, and then lighting as well. So this is a pretty significant energy reduction from what the building currently would use. And then this is the high school. This looks a little bit different because it's not eligible for grant funding per se. So we have a little bit of a different layout here, and also it's a new construction buildings, or it's new construction. But we're just comparing some of the attributes of the existing building with what we've received from the design team to date. And obviously the design is, you know, currently being developed, so this information could change. But the square footage of the building is not going to change dramatically. It'll increase just slightly from 250,000 square feet to 260,000 square feet. But the energy use is projected to decline quite a bit. They are looking at an all-electric building. They are looking at really tightening the envelope, so it would go from around an 80 EUI, which is what it is to date. And the target, which right now is aggressive but quite doable, is 30 EUI. This brings down the energy use considerably, and that factors in the fact that there's no air conditioning in the building currently, so you'd be adding air conditioning and reducing the energy use quite a bit. Additionally, there's a solar opportunity on that new roof that we hope they'll take advantage of. So next step in timing is really, to get feedback from folks about what they're, how this sounds, what, if there's anything we should be thinking about, any adjustments we can be making. We're going to be, we did get approval from town council earlier this week, and we're seeking approval toward the end of May from the school committee. Both of them have to be signatories to this, so that's why we need a formal vote from them. And then we would hopefully apply to the program in June. One of the things I'm hoping for as we get through the planning phase is that there'd be some interested folks in taking us through implementation, potentially from this committee or otherwise in town. We need folks that can help with kind of the grant applications a little bit and, kind of organizing and spearheading that. We need folks that can help with reporting to DOER on how we're doing. And we also really need folks to kind of stay in touch with different town departments about what should be happening when, and, make sure that that's kind of the ball's continuing to roll on this plan. So I am hoping for some support on that moving forward. And that's all I've got. Any other questions? Your questions have been great.
And I know we talked about this before, and I didn't know, with the initial seed money, I know that some towns and cities, when they have been designated, take part of that and put either a part-time or a full-time grant writer on staff to apply for both green community grants and then just general grants as well. Is that something that we're looking at, considering on the table, or completely off? That might be more of a Julie question.
It might be more of a Julie question. I have not heard of that to date. I think there is a part of our grant application that needs to talk about kind of who our team is and how our team would function moving forward. So that's, we're obviously still putting that together with assistance from the town and volunteers as well. I haven't heard of that to date in terms of a use of the funds.
Okay, yeah, I was, it's intriguing to me because it seems that you can use a little bit of those funds to actually maximize, both the return on the green communities, and then, if you have a grant writer, somebody that is good at, finding and writing grants, I think that there's a potential huge upside of opportunity across the entire town if we have someone designated for that. And I'm not volunteering for that because I'm terrible at writing
I
grants.
can follow up with Julie on that point and see, yeah, I can explore that further.
Jen, when ages ago when this was first talked about, wasn't DPW and street poles also explored? I know they have been doing some LED conversions, but did they end up kind of completing that exercise, or is that something kind of in the mix for spending some of the money?
Yes, a lot of towns, one of their first initiatives is to convert all of their streetlights to LEDs. And one of the problems with being a late entrant is that we already did that well before our baseline year.
Oh, we are done. Okay.
So we can't count it. It's good for us that we did it, but we can't count it. So unfortunately, we don't have that opportunity on the table anymore.
Well, one of the things that, being a late entrant into this is the projects and low-hanging fruits that you see the towns and cities that have previously done in the past 5-10 years, we've already completed. So we've got to go a lot deeper to get our 20%, which I think is fantastic in overall energy reduction, but it in some aspects makes it a little bit harder, but more rewarding in some aspects.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we've heard from the water folks is that a lot of our water pumping equipment has already been, the motors and drives have been addressed as well. So some towns have opportunity there, and I think some of that has already been addressed.
I really appreciate how you, though, I mean, despite that, have really aligned and pushed some of these projects that might not, that were already going to be investments, but push them a little bit farther in order to sort of be the best that we can do. I feel like that's sort of a theme right now. As we think about the design of the high school, the design of the Voc, you know, like build smarter, you know, and so it seems like a great opportunity, and you guys have really done an exceptional job of finding those opportunities.
Well, thank you. I mean, I think the new construction projects, you know, the high school affords us this opportunity now in this 5-year time frame. And without it, it would be much, much harder, right, to achieve these reductions. But that school being in the next 5 years is very good timing for this plan, and also puts the emphasis on doing a really good job at that school. So I hope that this is proving to people why that's important.
And then the Woodville School, I know, you know, moving to heat pumps, I know the utility was talking with the high school about being sort of creative about a microgrid in that region. Is that part of why you're also thinking about heat pumps at the Woodville? And because I know that was part of your overall sort of argument in some ways to the high school design team and the Voc design team to say like that with the Woodville there too, it's just a huge power use area of town, and that there's potential there as a municipal utility.
So those two things weren't coordinated initially, but we have been having conversations when we talk about resilience in town that our 3-school campus is one area that we should be focused on. So that's that's just a huge area of energy use and a lot of opportunity right there with all these building projects coming up. What's nice is that what shook out of the Voc conversations and this plan are actually really well aligned. And so, yes, we're planning, we hope to build a microgrid that will support the Voc and the high school. And recently we've talked about, oh, well, if Woodville, it would be electrifying, can we tie that in as well? So that would be a really nice development, I think, for everyone.
I have an update. It was part of my update. I'll go a little bit more in depth in that, but yes, it's not the electrification of Woodville as part of the green communities and going to heat pump is not dependent on the microgrid. They are, you know, separate pieces, but can be combined for efficiencies in that aspect. And the Woodville certainly can, you know, the grid in the area certainly can support Woodville being electrified as well. I can go into more detail during my updates.
Great.
I see Tiana with a hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm. So this is a 5-year plan to reduce by 20%, but after those 5 years, we can just keep going back to the green communities with grants for any additional things still within the theme of energy efficiency?
Yes, so we can continue to pursue all of our energy reductions that we discovered through the audits or anything else that comes to light. Exactly, either within these 5 years or beyond it.
Okay, fantastic. This is awesome.
And just, you know, kind of to set context, our neighbors, you know, both Saugus and Melrose are green communities. And both, I believe, since they're both over the $2 million mark.
Yeah.
In their grants that they've received through green communities since they've been members. And I highlight, you know, they're different types of cities and towns that are next to us, and I think we share, you know, attributes from both. So it is very doable, and you know, they've benefited, you know, to the tune of over 2 million apiece over the years that they've been in green communities.
It was really Saugus that we highlighted at town meeting when we started this with stretch code, because you know, if Saugus can do it, then we can do it for sure.
Absolutely.
Question on the process for green communities. So do we have to prove every year, basically, that we're, you know, abiding by what we sought out to do, the energy reductions, and then once we do that, we get the money every year? And how many years does the money go for? Like, is it just how, if we keep going, we just keep getting the money?
We need to spend the previous year's money to apply for more. So we have to use it before we can request more funding. So
Yeah.
Sorry, I wanted to get back to your first question. I had a thought and then it disappeared. Each year we need to report to them what our energy use looks like. So we'll use our mass energy insight tracking tool to report where we are against our baseline. And, you know, that will also share which buildings, you know, it's an update of which buildings and which vehicles and which everything is contributing, right? Which equipment is contributing to that use. And so, yeah, we, you know, will show hopefully progress over time towards that 20% each and every year. There isn't necessarily an annual target. So, you know, as we noted, the first couple of years might be a little bit slower than the latter years. You know, it's not like a linear trend that we are setting out to achieve, but yes, we need to kind of show continual progress, and we need to continue to keep the policies that we've adopted in place. So if we ever decide not to have stretch code, that would kick us out effectively, I believe, of the Green Communities program if we ever like rescinded that policy.
So does the money ever go away, or how does that work?
I mean, they're competitive grants, so certainly, you know, we have to compete with other towns that are requesting funds and have project ideas.
Okay. Was there any look into electric school buses?
We don't own our school buses, so that is not part of our fleet as far as I'm.
We do. I think it has been discussed a little bit with the school committee. I think that we do own one or two of them.
Have some fleets or the smaller buses.
Yeah.
Basically, the ones that you see parked between the high school and Woodville are owned by us. And that was actually what was it, in the fall that there was the bus that caught on fire. That was actually a bus owned by us. I did bring forth to the school committee and this body as well, like there's some electric bus concepts out there, and actually one that was actually a private public partnership with a bus company that was essentially kind of a lease, not quite a leasing, but the school body would only pay for the miles driven by the bus. So it was kind of an interesting model that the private side took kind of a lot of the risk of owning the vehicle. And then it was kind of an OpEx model versus a CapEx model. So it has been, you know, they're aware of it, of whether or not that they would go forth with it. I don't know. I can certainly talk from the utility side. The utility would be 100% on board and engaging, you know, and in any technical kind of, you know, charging infrastructure and engaging with the appropriate bodies if they wanted to go forth with something like that.
I certainly didn't mean to ignore vehicles. Vehicles are a part of this plan, but it's just that the majority of the opportunity in terms of energy use is really in buildings, and vehicles is just a smaller opportunity. So, you know, if we have one or two buses, sure, we can electrify it, no problem. And I think it's a great idea to do so, but it might not show up on our energy reduction, you know, results all that much.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I didn't know we can own our buses.
Yeah, and we also don't, you know, we kind of have voluntary busing. So the number of kids that we bus is actually not a huge amount anyways, because most people drive their kids to school in this town. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, if you have any additional feedback, feel free to send it my way. And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jen. And
Thanks,
I do
Jen.
think we should follow up on the the follow-up plan. And so, you know, as we are sort of thinking about reorganizing ourselves and thinking about where we are, I think I'll follow up with you on that. Because I think that I heard the request too, that the ESC should play a role in making sure that this goes forward, and you know, it takes energy and time, and you and Julie have put in a huge amount of energy and time. So thank you for that. And let's talk about how ESC can help.
Awesome, thank you. I'm going to drop now then.
All right, thank you.
Everybody. Bye now.
All right, I want to move us along on our agenda, or back up on our agenda a little bit. Sorry, Robin. So we are looking to elect committee officers. And so we don't necessarily have a process to do this. I think we sort of are making it up. I think what we should do is sort of open up the floor a little bit and talk about people who sort of take nominations for the board. We have 3 officers of our board: the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary. And so the chair obviously is the person who runs sort of the Robert's rules and the agenda, and sort of it provides structure as much as possible. The vice chair sort of has acted typically is backing that person up, acting as chair if the chair is not in the meetings. And then the secretary has been the person who takes and distributes notes for the meetings. And so I think what we should do, if it's okay with people, is to sort of just take nominations for each of the positions in order. And then we can have some discussion or thoughts, or individuals can nominate themselves. People can talk about why they think that they, want it, or why they nominate another individual. And then I think we need to vote. Does that sound okay as a process? It's getting late, so I'll start. I'd like to nominate Melissa as chair. I feel like Melissa, you were sort of a member of the ESC before you were a member of the ESC with the leadership on styrofoam. And I think your sort of leadership on waste reduction has been really phenomenal. And I know you have sort of an energy and a passion for a number of things. And so I really think that you'd be an exceptional chair of the committee. And so it's really an honor to nominate you for that. And I know that you've sort of, I think you have expressed some interest in doing it. So.
Thank you. Yeah, I've definitely expressed interest to Myra, and would be excited and honored to be the chair. And sustainability, environmental issues is my personal passion, has been for nearly my entire life. It's an everyday journey for me, and I try to work at it every day basically. And coming into Wakefield, seeing all the opportunities was, I was glad to hit the ground running basically. I've only lived in town for a few years, and I just, when I heard there was no styrofoam ban, I was like, well, I gotta get that done. And you did. I heard there's no recycling at the Galvin. Well, I gotta get that done. So I'm just glad to contribute and make such a difference in town, and hope to continue doing that.
I also think Melissa would make a great chair. And from procedure, you just have to accept, and then we've the nomination, and then we can vote on it if there's other discussion.
We don't have to vote? Tommy, you're saying we don't have to vote?
No, you have to vote on it. I'm just saying from other discussion, but Melissa would have to accept it, and then you would call a vote.
Okay.
But not precluding other discussion first, if there is any.
I totally support Melissa being the new chair.
Robin's turned down chair a number of times now. I allowed to say that? All right, so can we call a vote on Melissa as the next chair? So
She has to
maybe,
accept first. If
What?
she has to accept the nomination.
oh,
I accept.
okay, do I need a second?
Might as well. I'll second.
All right, Robin,
Yes.
okay, the motion is to nominate Melissa to be the next chair of ESC. Tom?
Aye.
Melissa?
Yes.
Tiana?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And Chris?
Yes.
And Julie? I don't know if she's there. And just so everyone knows, it's not that Nick is an incredible member of our committee, as are three other high school members. Because they're nominated before they're 18, it is a non-voting member. And so that's why, Nick, we welcome your thoughts and feedback on leadership. But and I know you're probably 18 now, and we should address this issue in our committee, but I always feel weird when I call roll and I don't call our student members.
Okay.
So I would like to make a motion to nominate Robin to be secretary.
Actually, so you should have to note that the motion passed.
Oh, the motion passed. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you.
We thought maybe it would be awkward to move, that I would finish this meeting and then Melissa will start us off in our June meeting as chair. And then we can be clumsy again about Robert's rules, because I still can't quite figure it out.
Technically, the chair has moved to Melissa, is the way that worked.
Okay.
But she can actually give you the rights to finish the meeting if you want.
Yes.
I give you the rights.
All right. I'll do my best.
I'd like to nominate Myra as vice chair.
I think that's a great idea. Myra can help pass the torch, and you've done such a phenomenal year leading us in for the past year. So I think that's a great nomination.
I appreciate that. I will do it. But I also, if anybody else would like to do it, I also am happy to step aside. So I welcome sort of self-nominations. I did reach out to our existing members and see if anybody wanted to be an officer, and I didn't hear others. But if anybody else would like to, if not, I will continue to do it and suffer through Robert's rules. Okay, I don't hear anything. So I'll accept the nomination.
Move
Right.
to vote that Myra be vice chair for the coming year.
I'll second.
Robin?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Tiana?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And Chris?
Yes.
So we lost Julie, so we still have a quorum, right?
We do.
Okay, and I'm a yes. So the motion passes.
Yay.
And then finally, Robin has been a secretary for ESC for 3 years, which is for those, like, I have kind of tried to cover her in the past when she has missed a meeting before we had recording, and it is not an easy job. And so I nominate Robin happily to continue to be our secretary and to keep us honest on all of our processes, in addition to our note taking. So it's a Herculean effort. So thank you, Robin.
It is a great job. Your minutes are impeccable. So I think you're perfect for the role.
Hi, Julie.
Hi.
Is that a second?
Second.
All right.
Robin didn't accept yet.
Oh, sorry.
I will accept, but I always open it for anyone else who's interested. And I am nothing without the folks that do some proofreading for me. So I recognize that it is a group effort for our notes. And spell check is my friend, but it screws me up too.
All right. Just so you know, everyone knows we do this every year. So you know, next year, well, you know, think about your options or interest. All right. Did you second, Tom?
I don't know, there was a motion yet.
I motion to approve Robin, motion to nominate Robin to be secretary of the ESC.
I'll move that.
Melissa,
Yes.
I'm gonna change it up. Julie,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Tiana,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Mama, yes, and Robin.
Yes.
See, I can't change, I tried to change out my screen and I almost lost people, so that didn't work out so well. No to you, Melissa, not a good strategy. All right, so that was great. Thank you very much. I know that's not the most exciting part of our meeting, but I think it is helpful. And like I said earlier, we had talked about, you know, we're not going to talk about subcommittees today, but I really do. And those of you, Chris and Tiana, you know, reach out if you have questions about, you know, I think we've covered a lot of actually, and we're going to do our updates. And I think you'll get a sense of some of the things that the committee's been working on. But if you have questions or thoughts, and, you know, I really think we mean to be open and follow the passions of people, because there's a lot underway, but there's also a lot of opportunity. And so we'll talk about subcommittees next time, which is a newer, like this year we sort of started subcommittees in a way to sort of try to get some of the work done outside of these meetings, since we meet once a month usually. So, and I think it worked, but I think we have some more finding to do.
Who's our new school committee liaison?
They're doing it on the 24th.
Okay, we don't know. Okay, gotcha.
So yeah, they're still, they have a new chair. So.
And to that point, Julie, were you officially reassigned or whatever the word is?
Oh, I don't think I am. I'll have to ask the new chair. I can't imagine anybody's going to fight me for it, but
Are you
I will
gonna
fight them for it.
take like a vacation, Julie? Just so you know, Chris and Tiana, I think you know Tiana, but Julie until last week or until Monday was the chair of the town council, which is essentially a full-time volunteer job.
Yeah, so now I have more time, I said, to be annoying on sustainability issues. So people will.
Yes.
I'll have more time. I relinquished my chair last night.
Yep.
We
So
were
have
the
more
power
time
committee
to
last
dedicate
year
to
because we
what we
had
truly love.
3 chairs on ESC. It was the place to be.
Yeah.
All right, it's 8:38, so I wonder if we can do sort of quick updates. I know, Tom, you have one. I don't know, Melissa, if you have one on waste reduction, other than I was too excited to share the news on styrofoam in the schools, so.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the event on Saturday.
Oh, yes. Sorry, go ahead.
So we have a table at the recycling and sustainability event, the first annual in Wakefield, that Representative Lipper Garabedian has been organizing. And so I got the TerraCycle boxes to collect hard to recycle plastics, including black plastic containers. And I have a bunch of different signs that I made on the bylaws and some actual materials showing what is allowed and not allowed according to the bylaws, as well as a number of other sustainability related things going on in Wakefield, like the community garden, like the electric charging stations, and I also have a basket that I am going to be collecting ideas that people have on different sustainability initiatives they want to see happen in town, so people can write those down. And so that's it. I'm really looking for somebody else to help me out that day, because you know, kind of the collection of TerraCycle and then the stuff on the table, I think needs kind of 2 people. Tiana, yes.
Yeah, happy to. I was planning to go anyway, so yeah.
Awesome.
I'm there.
And I'll be there too, kind of floating between Safe Streets and ESC. So I'll be able to help out a bit too.
And I heard the black plastic thing is so they're sitting on the counter. I actually fished it out of the trash and said the black plastic is going to be able to recycle it on Saturday.
Great.
Melissa, I am out of town for an event that I had no control over, but so I also have black plastic. So is there a way I can get it into the bin either before or afterwards to
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
okay.
you can drop it at my house.
All right. Great. I'd love to,
So
I love
it's-
getting rid of that the right way.
Yeah, it's 10 to 1 on Saturday at the high school. And I'll be showing up a little early to set the table up. And yeah, should be a really great event. Hopefully we get a lot of people show up. Tell your friends.
Yeah, how is so I've seen it on Facebook. How else is, and the town I think did an email blast as well. Has it?
Yeah, there's signs in
or
the
patch?
kiosks around town. Jen McDonald has been spearheading that. There was something in the item. I know the representative has been advertising it too. So I think there's also a Facebook event. Myra, I don't know if you I didn't have administrative ability to.
Oh, well, I can fix that.
Yeah. So I don't know like how that Facebook event has gone out because I haven't seen it.
And
Okay.
one thing, the utility is sponsoring the recycling of dehumidifiers. So if anyone has old dehumidifiers that they need to have recycled, they'll be accepted as well.
Yep, there's also electronics, recycling and furniture, other household goods, all kinds of stuff.
What thing has the most inclusive list of all the things people should bring to drop off? Because I feel like the email that went out mentioned humidifiers or dehumidifiers and electronics maybe, but not black plastics. I don't know what else, you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, black plastic didn't make it in the for the event, but I'm trying to spread the word. So on the town website, I know that there was a news.
Yeah, you have to dig pretty deep for it. I might see if she can repost it higher, but
Well, I think it's on actually the homepage. There's a.
oh, is it? Oh, you're right. It is. Yep.
On the
Awesome.
bottom, yeah,
Yep,
there's a.
yep. Awesome.
Yeah. So wakefieldma.us. There's a info on the homepage. That's it.
I'll just jump in for a second, Melissa. So I'm so
Yeah.
sorry that it was so disruptive. I was getting my daughter from UMass Amherst. So first, congratulations, Melissa. I wasn't here to vote, but you have my full support, and welcome Tiana and Chris. Super excited to have you here. So sorry that I've been in and out.
And,
The only other, I'll kind of quickly do my update. I don't have
Yeah.
much. We've been doing Korean communities and things you've already heard, but there is a Safe Streets work. Well, the MAPC, the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, is doing a pedestrian bike plan, comprehensive bike plan. And it was just announced today that there'll be a public forum on that on May 31st. And I've asked for the actual draft plan to be circulated a week in advance of that. So just be on the lookout for that. That's all I have.
Myra, you want me to do mine?
Yeah, great.
So a couple updates. So last night, should be coming online real soon into our energy efficiency program. We've now added battery powered, so cordless yard equipment into the EE program. So that includes lawnmowers, leaf blowers, string trimmers, and hedge trimmers to start. You know, we're always evaluating our EE program and the things in there. So look for those to come online real soon. They're putting those out. Also, just the advocacy of this group, the utility, other members of the public around the the Voc and getting them to electrify. You know, I have to give a lot of kudos to the utility and engaging them. And it looks like that we have moved them from going natural gas to electrification. And that has a lot to do with the energy park that was talked about earlier. So that energy park, there's efficiencies there. We'll essentially be building a microgrid for both our high school and the Voc, and moving the life safety. So each of those schools are required to have a diesel generator as part of life safety, as part of the MSBA. As part of this project, that those life safety generators will be removed, not part of those buildings, but put into the energy park, and we'll have a natural gas generator plus battery that will make up that life safety. As part of the energy park, the Voc will get solar panels. The Voc will get the energy that they utilize from those panels in real time, and then feed the energy, the excess, back into the energy park. The energy park is, I think, just a really unique opportunity that we have as a municipal utility, plus having the two high schools and the vocational school as an educational component to it for training the next generations of students that will be working on this technology. The park, there's a couple, it'll be off of Hemlock. We haven't quite, they're doing the siting now to see, there's a couple of different places, but they're also looking at, for future expansion of that park, potentially large flywheel as an additional energy capacity resource as well. And then tying into the Woodville also could be part of that. So we're starting to do some exploratory work. One of the things that was uncovered is Woodville does not have a life safety generator on it. And so it could partake in that. And we're uniquely sited as well where the schools are situated. That energy park, we basically have two substations that feed the town. Going to resiliency, both substations will feed that energy park as well. So keeping the resiliency and uptime. So if for some reason we lose major transmission from National Grid to one of the substations, more than likely the other substation has transmission up. The transmissions are separate, and being able to continue to feed those schools and tying into the larger resiliency projects for the town. So I'm personally really excited about the microgrid there, and the energy park is just kind of the outside of the thinking that the utility does. And it really, all of this kind of came together with folks on this group pushing the Voc and these ideas being born out of that. Anyone have any questions? Nope. All right.
Tom, just to say that's awesome news.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not completely solidified, but I think we're almost there. So that was kind of the thought processes behind there.
And Tom, I know last meeting you talked about, you or Jen talked, I think Jen was here in your place last, anyway, talked about sort of some other sort of incentives or offers that the utility was making to the Voc. So did they take you up on all of those, or was it just some of those?
Yeah, it is all part of that package. They have not formally accepted it, but it's getting there. So as part of all of that, it was to offset the additional cost to electrify, to come off of the natural gas. So there's some savings, for not having to trench, because they don't have natural gas up there. So there's a trenching project that would have to happen to bring the supply line up. That will still potentially have to happen because they will still utilize natural gas for cooking and some of the labs that they have as part of the school. But we would be removing HVAC and water heating from natural gas and doing electrification there as well. So there's, and the solar would be at no cost to the school as well, but I think there was like a $2 million delta between gas and electrification. So the utility has really stepped up in helping that. And some of that is the removing the life safety generator from the project and putting that. So the utility would have the onus on that. Got tabled last night. We were looking to potentially expand our natural gas moratorium, which today covers multifamily. So any new multifamily is excluded from adding natural gas service. We're looking to potentially expand that moratorium to new construction single family residence. There was discussion and whatnot. So if you have an opinion one way or the other, reach out to your commissioners. We're always looking for community feedback on these things as well. And then
did it get tabled to a certain meeting or just in general?
Next meeting,
Okay.
where there was a lot of discussion back and forth. The request was for actual what legalese moratorium would look like for that. So the utilities lawyer will write that up for us, and then we'll potentially debate it again and then vote one way or the other to expand the moratorium or not. And then the last update around project 2015A, which is the peaker plant in Peabody, there was a motion to essentially sell our share or put our share up for sale. That motion did not pass last night. It was a 2-3 vote.
Tom, I want to thank you for bringing that forward anyways. I think it was meaningful to do, and we knew it probably wouldn't pass, but I think it sends a message, and I appreciate you doing it.
No problem. Thank you. Those were my updates. I know we're way over time tonight, but
those are really great updates. Thank you. I always learn when you share your updates, so I appreciate them.
School building.
Yeah, school building.
So actually not a whole lot to report. The Metro Tech, as I said last month, they had plans to start some sustainability subgroups, and I don't know what happened. They've actually acknowledged my email as a follow-up to finding out when they are. So it sounds like they haven't had them yet. And they were supposed to have a monthly meeting this evening, and they also did not have that. So I do not have an update. It sounds like some things are moving forward with the utility company, which is great, but I'm extra curious on where they stand on potential legal litigation on the forest, and maybe that's why things have, there may be things being addressed there that are impacting other things. I don't know. That's pure speculation. So keep an eye out for that. And if you have any questions, let me know. And then for the high school, since last month, there was a public forum. I was disappointed on the lack of public attendance. In fact, I see a bunch of faces here that I know were there and others that have been part of our community. So, and so me and a few other people were asking, great questions about really understanding, percentage of permeable surface, where and how much potential solar PV they can put on the building or parking, stuff like that. So they, they're in very early stages. There's not really a design. So it's not a problem that they don't have answers, but we do need to keep asking them these questions so they know that people care. So I encourage folks, even if you can't make the community meetings, to actually just send emails to them saying, these are what I care about, and ask them, what are you doing about it? Because they will, they need to respond. They need to be, the committee are volunteers from the town, and they need to kind of know what people want. So don't wait for a community meeting to, express your goals for the project. And then my final kind of school related news is the MSBA, which is the Massachusetts School Building Authority. who is the largest grant writer for schools that is, going to hopefully partially fund both the Wakefield High School and the Metro Tech project, is hosting an all-day training. It's called the Green School Buildings for Massachusetts, the people who make it work, heading towards a green school infrastructure. It includes talking about the Saugus High School and how they achieved LEED Platinum, talk about in Worcester how they're reducing the use of fossil fuel, skill sets to help the facility folks at schools on how to operate these systems, and Mass Save grants, which doesn't really apply for Wakefield. So I get invited because I'm on an MSBA mailing list. I shared it with Julie and a member of the school building committee, also known as her husband. Wakefield would have gotten an invitation anyways, but promoting, I really hope someone from Wakefield can be on them from the, the school owner side, especially the operating standpoint. Designs are great if we don't use them efficiently as designed because of ignorance or apathy. It's a waste of money, and you want to waste the resources that went into it, both energy and human resources. So I hope that we'll have someone there. It is an all-day thing, but I plan to go in and out as much as I can between my day job. So it's great that the MSBA offers these trainings for folks, because it is, they know of it, but how do they learn about it? So
it's great, because I know I sort of learned from you, Robin, that MSBA doesn't push this issue as much as they could. Like the silver is not, they require schools to be LEED silver, right? But it's not.
No,
they're
it's
not
not a
pushing the
requirement.
envelope.
No, it's not a requirement. You get a little bit more cash from them, so it's a carrot, not a requirement. And they MSBA to date has not agreed to set higher standards for the building, despite some advocacy at the legislative level and community members and so forth, but that doesn't mean that can't change. So it's really, they see it as a town by town request. And so we need to know the town wants it.
One of the just, kind of broader, as we electrify, and the utility just did a study, now granted nowhere near as large as the school, but with like the gas moratorium, the savings on, we normalized it for a 1,000 square foot unit, both the carbon and operational savings just in a 1 year period is astronomical when you look at the results. And then when you multiply that against a school building that's going to be in operation for 50 years, it's kind of a no-brainer. And moving things to net zero, one of the things I've been advocating for is make it electric, and it's net zero ready, because as we decarbonize the grid, every building that's electric comes along with it. When you put in a fossil fuel heating system, it is going to be what it is until you replace that in 20 years. So whatever its output is today will be its output potentially even more as it becomes less efficient in 20 years from now. So it becomes imperative that we make these decisions now as these buildings are being built.
I'm all about town competition. I did hear through the rumor mill today that Stoneham is achieving a net zero high school with a plan for solar. No, this is like,
Oh, bring it on.
Yeah. So
a metric would be better.
This was the talk over lunch as I was talking.
They might beat us in dodgeball every year, but we're going to beat them in this.
We could take the Microsoft strategy and go for net zero back to the construction of the first high school in Wakefield. So that was, Microsoft's famous pledge. So that's the way to one-up Stoneham.
But I mean, if we're surrounded by like platinum on one side and net zero on the other side, and we're just stuck in the middle, I mean,
we could do both.
Yeah. All right, that's very helpful. And those issues, I mean, I do know that the Galvanize, the group who was sort of organizing community members around the funding for the Galvin is talking about getting back together to really start to mobilize community sport for the funding of the high school. And so I do think it's also an opportunity. You know, I agree with you. I think the participation in all of these community sessions has been frustrating. Although there are really some strong sustainability voices of the people who do attend. But I think finding a way to get more people involved in this conversation is really important at this point. Because one, we are also going to have to fund this building, and we're going to, you know, the sustainability components, since they're not potentially eligible for reimbursement, I understand, you know, it's important to have some support behind them.
Yes, the more people understand it now, it'll make it easier later, and we influence it.
Yeah. All right, we're at 9 o'clock. We try to keep the meetings a little shorter. So our next meeting, unless there's any other updates.
Nothing on land use, and we discussed that earlier, but we are looking for a third person to join. So if one of our new members or continuing members would like to join, obviously there's a lot going on that Judy shared with us. So I think this is the right time to engage in a bigger way there.
Great, thank you. Our meetings typically have been the second Thursday of the month. Tiana, do you want to say something? You popped up on my screen.
Oh, I was just going to say on the DPW, I'm not the DPW member to give an update, but the rain barrel distribution was this afternoon and it was a delight.
Awesome. I can tell you, my husband, because it doesn't necessarily come with a clear spigot, but there are some options for like a timed release, like drip irrigation system that some people have innovated if you have interest.
Cool.
We are big fans of our rain barrel. I know the community garden is also sort of, you know, people have their plots, and if you have an extra 15 minutes, I highly recommend popping by JJ Rounds and just checking out the community garden, which I think is like one of the happiest places in town. And I know Julie is the first time, you know, Julie.
After 3 years of trying.
Yes, you were like so instrumental in like getting the funding and getting it going. And then I know you've been wanting to do it for a long time. So
I'm so excited.
Yeah, so it is one of my absolute favorite places to be in town. It's in the community garden, and like people put in like decorations, and it's just is like a really happy place to be. So even if you don't have any other reason to be at JJ Rounds Park,
you can come weed my plot. I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm excited, but I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
We'll help you out. I was just, you know, on the DPW stuff, generally they give us an update. So I was just looking at the Black Earth. We're up to 391 subscribers. So that's 78% of the 500 to the next tier. And I know that I just saw the DPW got another 50 starter bins so anyone, encourage your friends and neighbors to sign up for the service. They get that free starter kit. And it saves all of us in town because we pay for refuse on per ton. So every ton that we get to divert to composting saves us dollars and helps save we're not burning it, because that's where our trash goes.
Do we or will DPW have any info about that at the recycling event on Saturday? You know, if you have any signs.
I think Black Earth might be coming.
So,
Oh, good.
Yeah, they're gonna have a table there, I believe.
Oh, perfect.
Prop it up as well as at our table.
Somebody should have an iPad connected to the internet with the bins to have people sign up right on the spot. Peer pressure right there.
Yeah, we tried
My suggestion.
to get Black Earth to come to the event, but they were already booked. So.
Oh. All right, so our next meeting is June 9th. That's the second Thursday of the month. It's traditionally been our time. Does that work for folks still, or should we could do a doodle poll or something to find another time if that's, I don't think it conflicts. We can't do Mondays and we can't do Tuesdays and we can't do so we've been trying to fit it between other meetings, but does that work for folks still?
Is there a date where we can meet in person?
Yeah, so what Julie learned at the last time is I think we should meet in person as soon as, I mean, many of us, but haven't, I mean, those of you who joined last year have never met in person. So I think we just need somebody to be working in the building so that they can lock the door after we're done. And there still is a requirement, as I understand it, at least until September, where we have a recording available. And so as a part of the COVID, and so we need to be in the town hall building, is my understanding, as opposed to.
Yeah, the only room that's wired up right now is the upstairs in town hall. That's gonna change as the public safety building comes online, like that room will be wired up. So we're getting there, but it's still slow.
So I will reach out to I think it would be either Anne or Joe if they're sort of in the office. I think that's the constraint. And since it is a different night than other meetings, it's sort of they're not scheduled to have staff there in the building. Well, we would be there.
So
we'll
keep
it's a follow-up
revisiting it.
item for sure, but I think even if we can, I mean, we can't, I don't know if we could even have like an informal like get together on the green or something. That wouldn't be a meeting, but I just think we should just meet each other and because it's hard to sustain the energy on Zoom after all this time.
You can't meet and talk about any issues without it being a public meeting if there's a quorum, just a reminder.
But there's nothing to stop us from posting it as a public meeting, even if it's like we do it in town council where we have coffees.
Yeah.
So that might be something that we think about. We post it and maybe we all meet, at Brothers or on the town green or something.
But does it need to be recorded?
No, because we won't be talking about anything. We will have to do minutes if we talk about anything. So
if it's a public meeting, there has to be minutes,
right?
No matter hybrid, virtual, or in person.
Yeah, but I don't think we have to record necessarily. But I think out of courtesy, Wakefield has kind of made it if we're going to have a substantive meeting, we're going to record it. But just as a kind of a social thing, we do it. People do it with retreats all the time. So.
And just throwing this out there, just as the Gas and Light Board is potentially going to start meeting in September. So we generally, we'll have 2 more meetings. We take August off, but our September meeting will more than likely be in person, just as a factoid.
Yeah, I hope we're getting close. We'll keep pushing on it. I do like the idea of Melissa, maybe like a kind of a social thing, but we would have to just post it.
Sounds good.
Great. Any other matters not anticipated? Tiana, Chris, you made it to the whole meeting, I think, so that's a good sign.
This is the longest one we've ever had, I think, too. Good job.
I know, it's a long one. I don't know.
Well, there's so much going on. And it was long without me being here talking, which always makes it longer, so I'll shut up. Shutting up.
All right, motion to adjourn.
I motion.
Second.
Robin?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Tiana?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
And Julie?
Yep.
And I'm a yes. Have a great night, everyone.